10 different hats in regards to, he's principal at the Campbell County Tech Center. And then he's also on the board of supervisors for Campbell County and about 5 other things. Married to the greatest volleyball coach on East Coast, right? And daughter who's one of the best in the world. So all kinds of things. So thank you for joining us. And then Drew Wade, the Bama, so thank you for joining us. So yep, appreciate that. Now, in regards to our guest today, Elise Spontarelli. She is the executive director for the Vector Space. And if you've not ever gone to the Vector Space, you have to check it out. And there was a point in time where I think that at least even though she's really nice, she probably got tired of me just showing people. I said, you gotta come see this thing. You gotta come see this thing. And she would be very nice about giving them 45 minutes to an hour tour. So yeah, she's very proud of it. And she and her husband Adam have created this from ground up 6 years ago. 6 years ago. And probably 200 members strong now. So what basically is a makerspace right across the street. And they have all kinds of things with the prospect of going even bigger and better. I've got to believe that they're one of the better makerspaces in certainly Virginia, but perhaps even the continental United States. So that's Elise, and we'll let her introduce herself further and tell us a little bit about the Vector Space. So thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Matt. Thanks for the intro. Hello, thank you for having me. Do I need a mic? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you better use the mic.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, how's that?
Yes.
Good. Okay, wonderful. As Matt mentioned, I am Elise Spontarelli, the co-founder and director of Vector Space. I do have a couple slides that I think Tim's going to pull up. So as Matt mentioned, we really have built Vector Space from the ground up. There's a couple different ways that makerspaces happen in communities. And, you know, cities around us have come to our space to see what we're doing and how we did it. And, you know, Roanoke and Charlottesville and different cities would love to have a makerspace. And it's a little bit tricky for a city entity to sort of just pop open a workshop, right? And that's not too tricky. But all of the sort of cogs that need to go along with that can be a little bit tricky. And so one of the things that's interesting about the way we've sort of grassroots built the makerspace is that you all and the city and a lot of people, I feel like, don't have the buy-in and they don't really know it's there like they should and could. So I am here to tell you about what we do, and I hope that you will utilize the makerspace as a resource for the people you serve, for you know, we partner with a lot of the people in the room already, which I think is wonderful. And if we don't partner with you yet, then I'd love for you to learn a little bit about what we do and then reach out and talk about how we can continue to basically just empower people with skills. You can just go ahead through those slides, Tim. I can give you full screen and then next it will hop nicely, but that's fine too. Okay, so what is a makerspace? That question in and of itself, there's not just one answer to that. Some of you may have kids that have a makerspace in their school, which could be like a craft table or a 3D printer. And then there's university makerspaces, there's for-profit, there's nonprofit. They all look a little bit different. I've seen some, you know, really active, really great makerspaces in like 1,000 square foot room with, you know, a bandsaw over there and some computers over here. There's a lot of different models and it looks a lot differently all over the country at different spaces, even within our community. We have, you know, the makerspace for children at Mason Square, for example, looks very different than our space. But the idea is that people can come together and create together. So at Vector Space, we have 12,000 square feet of all different types of tools. We have woodworking, we have metalworking, which includes machining and blacksmithing and welding. We have textiles, so screen printing and sewing. We have rapid prototyping, so several 3D printers and laser cutters. We have leatherworking, we have an electronics lab and a computer lab, a lending library, all of the tools that different people will come and use together. So we do have a membership model, like Nat mentioned. We have about 200 people that have joined, sort of like a gym. You pay a monthly fee and then you have access to the space. About 30% of those users are entrepreneurs. And then they all range from college student through retiree. We have welders and machinists, we have engineers, we have people that do a desk job and then come to the space and do something with their hands that's completely unrelated to their career. A huge mix of, college professors and in the arts and also in the sciences. So one of the things that's really magic about the space is just the collection of people that come together there. We have several different areas that we focus on. So entrepreneurship, education, arts and innovation, and then also workforce training. So we, as I mentioned, about 30% of our members are entrepreneurs. We teach Co-Starters, which is a 10-week entrepreneur program at the space. We do entrepreneurial programs with high schoolers as well, which leads into education. So education looks like a couple of different models we have for that. We have skill-based education that includes workshops. So you can come in and learn any skill that we teach there, right? So you can come and do an introductory wood turning class and turn a bowl. You can learn to sew. You can learn, basically any area of the shop we have an introductory class in. And then we do some really intentional project-based learning for high school students, and then more recently working with local colleges as well. Structured education. So these are pictures of some of the student projects that we've done. So the young woman there has just programmed this set of lights that she is then going to weave into a garment that she then later wore in a runway show that we put on. So combining different aspects, different disciplines. So that was our fashion and technology class. The purpose of that was to get females interested in computer programming. So we had a fashion aspect to it, and then they coded lights and sensors and put those into their garments. And it worked. We had several of them come back to do projects like combat robots, which were very much not fashion focused, but they did see computer programming as something that was interesting to them and that they could carry on and do with other applications as well. At the bottom, we have two students building an engine for their go-kart. We did a go-kart project where two teams, they started with plans and a big pile of metal, and they built from the ground up two off-road go-karts that were a lot of fun. And then our machinist training program is the most sort of traditional workforce program that we offer. So this will be the one that's the most familiar to you. This is the one that we have several partners in the room that we work with already. But we have a 12-week program where we work with low-income women. It's funded through TANF, and we partner with Jubilee and with Virginia Career Works. We do a Skills USA alongside it. And after the 12-week program, we place them with, or they get credit for the intro machining class at CVCC. We place them with employers like Belvac and Wegman and ACS. We work with BWXT closely. They do some mentoring during the program. We bring in guest speakers from around the country because it's hard to find women machinists. And we have a couple of local speakers, but we also bring in guests from around the country that speak to these women and talk about what a career in machining looks like. The difference between this program and just hopping into CVCC and taking a class there is that these are women who don't know what machining is. They don't already have an interest in it. What they have is a job that is not a stable career and the desire to have a reliable income and be with a company for a long time. So we've partnered with these different employers and these different helpers on the educational side of it. And we have two machinists. That's Mike Booker, who's the head machinist at Belvac, who instructs it alongside another one of our members who's a machinist. And so we just started our third cohort. We have 6 women who are in their 3rd week of the program. Our last 3, as I mentioned, are now employed. All 3 of them are one's at Wegman, one's at Belvac, and one's at ACS. We have partners with AMG as well and a couple of other employers. We've talked to Southern Air recently. So we're doing our best to get them placed after they go through the training. So that's a really exciting program. It takes a lot. It's a community lift, and I appreciate the partners that are here that help us with that. Peer learning. So we have all of this formal structured learning, but the things that happen when you just have 200 people with unique backgrounds and experience and some sort of maker skill are really exciting. So these are just member projects. The group with the masks, we just built a foundry to melt metal because we didn't have one. And so this is how a lot of our tools sort of start. Is like, well, let's do the DIY version and see how it works and see if we like it. And then maybe we'll build a bigger one. How much metal do we want to melt? So we built a foundry and we have a foundry. The bottom picture is the laser cutter. So this is just a member meetup. I think that's in that picture. Yeah. So members teaching members, this happens all the time. It happens intentionally. We have a leadership team of shop captains that help to get everyone acclimated and trained and successful in making their projects. And then it happens organically as well. When I left the space today, there was a Liberty student working on his engineering, like thesis project or whatever his final capstone project, and a member there in the electronics lab helping him troubleshoot it and why was it doing the thing he thought it was going to do. So there's just all of this organic peer learning that happens at the space as well. These three are at an embroidery machine. Two of them run their own small businesses and would love to make their own hats and embroidered shirts at the space as opposed to, you know, outsourcing that. And so that's the skill that they are learning there. Yeah, so this, and we've actually seen, you know, careers and jobs come about just among the peer learning here. We have a member who met with a machinist a couple times to work with the CNC mill that we have. Basically self-taught and through peer learning, learned to use the CNC mill, and now he works as a CNC operator. That is his job. He got a career doing that just of his own. I'm gonna learn it and there's someone here to teach me. So that sort of thing happens at the space, which is really awesome as well. Intentional opportunity. So we are very intentional about the projects that we put out there for students to participate in. All of them have some sort of community aspect. We believe that just making something and then taking it home and being proud of it is wonderful, but for our students, we want to give them the opportunity to show the community what it is they've done. So this first picture in the top left is Jayla. She is a student at the Empowerment Academy, which is our alternative high school here in Lynchburg City. And that was an entrepreneurship project where she created a line of products. She decided to make these children's chairs that you see there with her. And then she has a setup at the community market where she was selling them at the end of the semester. Soldering at Maker Faire, making power tool racers, welding as a couple's date night activity. We want people to have an opportunity to try things that you can't try otherwise. I mean, you can't just walk into a machine shop anywhere. And the tools available that we have and can help you with are sort of beyond the garage level tools that most folks have at home. So giving folks an opportunity. That's fine. You can go ahead, Tim. High stakes and high quality. There is not one of our projects that couldn't definitely fail miserably. Some of them fail bigly and catastrophically, and that's okay. And that's part of the process. But we believe in taking those big risks. So there's a couple projects here I'll mention. The steps right outside this building. I got permission from the city. I got the Alliance on board. I said, we're going to paint the steps. And they said, what are you going to paint? And I was like, I don't know. These students are going to do it. This is their project. They're going to figure it out. And luckily everyone loves them, I think.
That looks great.
So that was but doing things that are, I mean, I didn't even know if these students could paint, right? I said, here's an art project, sign up now. It was a summer program. They came to us. The other great thing about our student projects is that we draw from all over. We have kids from Lynchburg City, from all of the counties. We get students. Students come up from Alta Vista. We have private school and scholarship kids all working together. And they all are capable of creating really wonderful things. And we are not afraid to push them and to let them try and let them fail. Combat Robots is in the bottom there. So this was a public event that we put on, and we have folks travel from Tennessee and North Carolina and Maryland. There's not a lot of combat robotic fights in the Mid-Atlantic, and so we host one in the fall. Well, they'll be back this year. There's been a bit of a pandemic hiatus, but we had students that built these robots, and then they competed. And that again was like, well, we're gonna throw this whole event, and you have to build a robot, and we hope that it doesn't look embarrassing out there when you do it. But they did it and it was great. The Space Balloon Challenge, with this particular, there was quite a failure with this project. This team, soon after this photo was taken, Their balloon left without their payload, which is very expensive and sad and anticlimactic because they've spent weeks and weeks and weeks building. And then, you know, someone didn't tie a knot the way they should have. And so the balloon left without their payload. We ordered another one. They rallied. I was actually really proud of how they were like, okay, how are we going to fix this? Right. They came back. We got back to the drawing board. There was a second team who launched successfully that day, and they got to watch that and be sad that their payload was not up in the upper stratosphere as it was planned to be. But our instructors for these programs are professionals in usually two very different fields. So with robotics, we had a computer programmer who was working on the electronics of the robots, and then a machinist, because all of those robots were made of metal in the machine shop. So combining these two different disciplines, our instructors are there because they love it. They get paid, but like not an engineer's salary. And a lot of them teach these after school programs after work, as you know, sort of a hobby and something that they enjoy, and sharing that love of learning. And who doesn't want to help a kid make a robot that's going to fight someone else's robot? All of these programs are uniquely rewarding. So you can see some big smiles here. Kamisha just made that salt shaker on the lathe. She was one of our machinist students. A student who just turned her first wooden plate there. And then that was an intubation box that we prototyped and was in the operating room in less than a week at the height of COVID for our anesthesiologists. So, you know, we're working with people in the community, and we're also working with partners in the community. And during COVID, that looked a little bit different. We made a lot of face shields, we made intubation boxes, we did a lot of innovating and a lot of putting our tools to use for things that we don't typically. But that also is the strength of a makerspace and a space full of people who have weird ideas and are willing to try them. So what's next? So we really are just getting started. We have tripled in size since we opened in 2015. We are outgrowing our current space, and we still rent our space. I think that a space as instrumental and as impactful as a makerspace and showing what we can do in a community, we need to stay here. We need a sustainable future. And so we have a goal to buy a building. We're looking at the current building that we're in, and we're also looking at a couple of others. And we have a fundraising campaign that we're just rolling into to be able to purchase a building and expand. So this is a rendering of what welding could look like. Our wood shop right now, if you haven't been in, is in a former convenience store. Our last expansion was into the space next door, which was a convenience. It was actually 4 different convenience stores in the 5 years that we were there. So the floors are sort of slippery when there's sawdust, and it's a drop ceiling, which is not ideal. I mean, we're making it work, and we are grateful for the space. One of the wonderful things about Lynchburg is that we can afford to have a makerspace of this size and even bigger. A lot of big cities end up with like a couple of smaller maker spaces, and you can't do all of the things at once, right? You have like maybe a couple disciplines here and a couple over there. So we are really fortunate as a community to have the people and the innovators to use and support a makerspace, but also, real estate that we can afford. So our goal is to be a space where you can do large scale projects. So we do the machinist training program right now, and we hear from employers when we talk to them about machining that they also need welders. And I know lots of you in this room are also working on that. And we're not going to pop up a welding program without talking to all of you first and making sure that really is a need. But we could see, a space where with more space, we could offer welding training that's similar to the machinist training that we do. We'd love for large scale art to happen here. I just got back from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, where they have all of these metal sculptures. They have this huge history of steel in their city, and they have space that you can make this. They have a public foundry where you can go in and cast statues or cast like little keychains. They have all this really cool metal work happening there, and you can see it all over the city, which is really exciting. I'd love for Lynchburg to have an opportunity. That's come up in our art circles as well. We have artists, and we have art galleries that would love to people to have the opportunity to build large scale projects like this. Part of our capital planning is state funding. So the Go Virginia State Board meets next week to hopefully confirm our Go Virginia funding, but we requested 300,000 for an expansion of our programming. So about half of that will go towards new equipment, so it's capital, and the other half will help us to expand and continue to serve more people through workforce development and also entrepreneurship. Private foundations, local sponsorships, private donors, these are all part of our plan. And this is a big lift for us. It's our capital campaign goal is 1.6 million, which is, you know, for our smallish organization is a lot of money, but honestly, like in the Lynchburg landscape, like we can do this. We can do this for a makerspace that can have this impact. We're planning our fall programming, those student projects that I talked about, and we're up against a scheduling conflict where we can't have fashion and combat robots happening at the same time because there's just not enough space. We need more room to be able to continue to grow our programming, our student programs, and we have more makers that want more space and more tools. And so I would love I invite all of you, I'd love to have you for a tour. I know Nat has brought some of you in. And if you haven't been in yet, please come see us because I do know that even with pictures, what exactly we do there and what it looks like is all sort of hazy until you come in. So I'm happy to host tours. I have business cards here and then a couple copies of our annual report if you want to see what we were up to in the past year. And I'd love to answer any questions.
Questions?
I heard her presentation for the Go Virginia meeting where she had to get their buy-in and she did a fantastic job. And this is right up their alley with their goals and objectives of reaching hard to reach people and to give them these skills. I thought you did a great job.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Anyone online? Any questions?
Any questions online?
Please, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome to stay for the meeting if you'd like. I'll see here's something you find interesting.
Thank you.
All right, again, thank you very much, and I tried to be one of the band leaders and one of the cheerleaders on the side, so very excited about Makerspace, and I don't know if she was joking with me or not, but she knows I am very inept in regards to all anything Makerspace, but I'm there, not often enough. But certainly, it's a great opportunity, and certainly it's very pleasant in regards to all the aspects. And I sometimes I just go and watch because there are some really incredible people there. All right. So again, thank you, Elise. All right, move on. Next up is the approval of our minutes. Those were provided to you in the email that you received. So any questions, concerns, edits to that? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. Hey, Christine, do I have a second? Okay. Either one. All right, so it's been properly moved to second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, ready for the vote. All in favor, aye. And yeah, I'll assume that if we don't hear any nays, the votes online will go with it. So any nays? Okay, the ayes have it, the minutes are approved. Okay, moving on to director's report. Tracy.
Thank you so much. And I do have a little bit of a longer report, but I'm going to break it up so it won't be boring, I promise. I'll start by just saying thank you to Christine for this space again. Christine, this is really working out well for our board. So I hope that we can continue meeting here, but if somebody else wants to volunteer another space, we can do that. And also Christine helped me with some things this past week, and we're going to be meeting. Tim and I will be meeting with her soon to talk about, we did that career exploration event. What did we call that back then? Worlds of Opportunity. Worlds of Opportunity. We did that in 2019, and then with COVID, we backed off of that, and we're looking at, do we do that again? Does it look different? Does it look the same? I know a lot of companies are being asked to be at every event out there right now, and they're saying, can we do one regional? We will look at that. It probably wouldn't happen this year because it takes a lot of planning, but definitely start planning for next year. I also want to highlight the team. There's just a team from both Humankind, our contractors that work with the One Stop, many of them here today. And then my team, my personal team up in my office, we've been working so hard with with all the challenges, with the workforce challenges. You're going to hear some success stories today from a couple of them. I know Sarah will have some from her team and James. And, you know, it's a tough environment. The unemployment rate is low. We have to find people that have dropped out of the workforce and get them back into the workforce. And it takes a lot of work to do that. It takes a lot of breaking down barriers with the clients that we have. So I just want to say thank you. We have seen we've seen a higher increase in our traffic into our center. So that tells us that people want to go back to work and they need the help, and they know because of Tim Saunders and his great marketing work, they know where to go to get that help. And they come to our website and they fill out those reports, and a lot of them are saying they want to take the CDL courses that we have, which CVCC has, as well as this year VTI has one. So we've got lots of opportunities for people when they do reach out to us. I also want to thank Keith Cook and Lori Cumbo, who personally helped me with the EO audit that we had. We have a review for equal opportunity and all the things that we're doing there. And they helped us pass that this year with flying colors, and make sure that we've done some things better this year that we were told last year that we should do better. So they helped with that. I want to say thank you. And I know Renee was part of that too, and she's online with the BEC there in the building as well. I also want to highlight Tim Saunders. You know, he mentioned having a marketing plan, and he's already been going for it. He's had several TV and radio talks about what we do, and I want him to show one of those. And then after that, I want to go through, I've been doing some research and looking at the jobs EQ data that we have on workforce. And I just have some thoughts that as your director, I want to get some feedback from you on what my thoughts are with some of that data. But before we do that, I want to show you one of the great things that this is one example. He's also done a video with Bedford Regional Water Authority, but we're showing you this one as an example.
Show up momentarily.
We see this. Do we get to?
Oh, I don't want to see that one.
Oh, sorry. I'll get that off the screen here in just a second. Do you mind if I say something here kind of as a preface to this real quick?
Please do.
Okay.
Oh, you need the microphone.
So messaging is an ongoing thing. It's something that we do in a lot of different forms, not just in what I'm about to show you here, which is a TV spot, but it's something that we do every day when we're meeting with businesses, when we are putting things on social media, when we are having a gathering like this. Any opportunity that we get to talk about what Virginia CareerWorks is, that's our messaging. And so what you're about to see is just kind of a sample of how we talk to businesses and how we try to communicate to the public about who we are. And I hope that you all will adopt this type of messaging too, because again, we are a collaborative system. When I'm out talking to businesses, I explain Virginia CareerWorks as a collaborative network of businesses, nonprofits, and state agencies that provide employment services to job seekers and businesses. So we're more than just one agency. We're a group that works together, and we are powerful. We are much more effective when we work together, and we're not all doing the same thing. You know, we are truly, you know, the Workforce Board, the BEC, DARS, CVCC, social services, the CTE programs in our schools. It's a big network that works together, adult education, all of us. And that's what Virginia CareerWorks is. And so that's how we need to talk about who we are and what we do. So with that, I'll just show this real quick. I don't think we're gonna be able to do this.
Is it not working?
No.
Did you click the share audio?
So Tracy, go ahead. I think
Let's-
it would be
let's
better to
see.
not slow.
Can you send it out as a link to all
Yeah,
of us?
I did send it out as a link, but,
When did you send that?
I mean, it's in the chat. I'm so sorry.
Oh,
I'm so
I thought
sorry.
you meant.
I don't know how to.
Well, that was a 3-minute video that highlights and what we want you all to tell people. So we will send tomorrow, we will send you a link to that because we want you to watch it so that you know what to tell that young person or that adult person that just needs that help, that we can help them. Or if somebody has been let go of their job due to unemployment and that type of thing. So the next section, that you have a stick there, the memory stick that you have there is, it's called, I think Economic Overview 2022, if you can put that in, Tim. But I have been looking at our jobs EQ information, and I think it's interesting to keep up with where are our industry clusters, what are the top industries that we have, how many people are working in those areas, and which ones are higher paying. And you know, ODU did a report and showed, you don't have it? I don't understand what you're saying.
So right now, I'm not able to pull that up for you, but I did send it out to everybody.
Okay, well, he sent that out to you, so I'll just walk you through some of the data that we have. Yeah, so this was the report that he emailed to you today. It's an economic overview of our metropolitan statistical area of Lynchburg, and that is, of course, the 4 counties surrounding Lynchburg. And I'm just going to tell you like the 3 main points that as you kind of look through that you'll think about. The first is, what are the job demands? And you're saying that the PowerPoint, you can't get that to work for the people to see it, and I understand that. So basically, of our population of 262,000 in the Lynchburg region, our labor force participation rate is 59.1%, or 128,000 residents. Our most in-demand jobs over the next 3 years are, number 1, team assemblers. These are people who assemble an entire product or component of a product. And we need 231 of those. So if you count the people that are retiring and the people that are leaving for one reason or another, we need to be up 231. So we need 231 team assemblers. The second is welders and solderers. We need 203. In 3 years, we need to be up 203 of those. Production supervisors, we need 171. Packaging and filling machines, we need 150 that are working in packaging. Machinists, we need 124. Material movers, we need to be up 155. Industrial machine mechanics, 118. And the list goes on, and you can get to more data. And if you're interested, I can really geek out on you, and you can give me a call. But these are the most in-demand jobs right now in manufacturing, and these are the ones that pay well. So why do I bring that up? Because we have career navigators that are working with people, and this is why we point them to the CTE Academy. This is why we point them to the Fast Forward programs, because these are the industries that you have there at the community college. And it's also goes to show you, John Hardy's here. Maybe you don't mind telling us how many people are signing up for the CTE courses in those areas.
Yes, well, I mean, I can only speak on behalf of Campbell
Sure,
County.
Campbell County.
So, at this point, we've got, we're not completely done with our registration for next year. But typically, we've got about 300 high school students that come to our technical center for a variety of programs. Of course, not all of those feed directly into, what I would call kind of really a majority of these are the manufacturing sector. So, as far as that goes. Over the past 4 years, I would say 1 out of every 4 high school graduates or 20 25% of our students is coming to the technical center in Kimball County Schools. So
That's
they are looking for hands-on opportunities and to learn. And I think that that's one of the great things about Kimball County Schools as far as the percentage. And that's just at the technical center. So that's not including, while the CTE Academy is evolving at CDCC and everything like that, for Kimball County Schools, we've been sending 50 to 100 students every year for probably about the last 8 years at least to CDCC with Dr. Capps for things like EMS, machining, welding, health and medical sciences courses and things of that nature. So, yes. So, Campbell County Schools, we're probably closer to that, 40% rate of students accessing some of our higher level CTE programs in their later years of high school.
That's amazing. And this is what we're hearing in Bedford County and Amherst County and the others too. They're having record numbers of enrollments for their CTE courses. So the word is getting out there that manufacturing jobs are high wage jobs. And parents, I think, are finally starting to push that as well with their kids, and they're seeing the expense that comes along with a 4-year university. And they know that they can get those skills in 2 years and have that associate's degree. But even if they don't have the associate's degree, have that credential that can get them a high-paying job. And then what about the health field? That's also a high demand and that we push a lot of our clients into. Nursing assistants, we need 141 of those. And I'm just giving you the high numbers, the top numbers, but we can get it down into the weeds on all of these. So nursing assistants, we need 141. LPNs, which by the way, make an average of 44,000 in our region now. We need 34 more than we have now, 34 in the next 3 years. And I think these are low numbers. I think they're actually a lot higher than this, but this is what Jobs EQ has. Registered nurses, then we need 13 more than we have today. So when you look at the Jobs EQ report that shows employment in the Lynchburg region, it says that it's expected to expand jobs by 218. But we know, and that's in the next 12 months. So in 1 year that we should have 218 jobs that are expanded, so higher than the number today. But we know that there's a lot more openings. There's like over 1,000 openings in our region for jobs in general. So what does that mean? I'm trying to understand what some of these things mean. So we're just trying to figure out, what the in-demand jobs are, how many openings there's going to be now and later, and then where are we going to get those filled and how are we going to do that? What are the creative ways that we're going to do that? The second point that I wanted to make from that report that you received by email is to look at our industry mix. Manufacturing, which is different than other regions, makes up 14%. Other regions have manufacturing making up about 8%, 7%, and they feel good about that. Ours is 14%. And that's great. We have over 14,000 people that are working in manufacturing, and those jobs pay well. Go to the next one. So healthcare makes up 16%, so even higher. So manufacturing 14%, healthcare 16%, or 17,000 in healthcare. And those jobs don't pay as high when you look at the average healthcare versus the average manufacturing. Healthcare does not pay as high as manufacturing, but it's still in high demand. So we have a need there, and they are good paying jobs. But interestingly enough, manufacturing is even higher. Another one is professional services and technical jobs. Those are very high paying, an average $80,000. So we will encourage people to get into those areas as well. And I feel like construction, we can't ignore. We have a strong industry base in construction, and there is certainly a need there, and it helps our region grow. So these are the areas that I think we need to continue to push people to. And the final point that I wanted to get across from that report is to look at our industry clusters and look at what is the most growing for the need and the higher paying. And the number one thing is metal and metal manufacturing. So automation, Century Equipment, ACS, all those companies. So let's focus people there. The rotation quotient is the highest there by far and higher in our region than, I don't know any other region that has 4.70, which is a rotation quotient that has to do with the high salary and it's on the side of growth. So if you look at the jobs that are shrinking over time, that going down, and the jobs that are growing, that one is still growing, and it's in manufacturing, which not all manufacturing jobs are in that growth quotient. And the final thing is the ODU report that showed that we were down 3% year over year with gross domestic products. You're going to get better if you get more manufacturing. There's more products that go out of our region from manufacturing that are produced here and go out. That's what raises that GDP, that gross domestic product. So that's why we want to continue focusing, I feel like, in manufacturing. I'm your director. If you disagree with me, this is where you tell me what you think, and we can debate that. But you got that report, and those are my thoughts. And that was a long director's report.
Tracy, thank you very much. Any questions, comments? Certainly, coming from the manufacturing side, certainly part of the 14%. A few years ago, that we were actually at 18 and 19%. Certainly, even though we remain a big part of the percentages of workers, that is decreasing, and that's been across the board for the last 30 years. Manufacturing has decreased. But as I tell a lot of kids now, BWST is at the top of the food chain. We got a lot of folks making a lot of money, and that's an incentive to folks get out and do things. So it is what it is, right? So thank you very much. Appreciate it. All right, let's quickly go on to finance. Tanya, are you still on?
Yes, I'm still here. Good to be with you all today. Thank you so much. Of course, as we all know, Rosalie retired, AKA left us at the end of February. So March, I will say, has been the month of great learning for me. Everything that is WIOA related, and of course that will continue as we dig in and learn about this. I will say a big thank you to Tracy, Lori, Tim, and Keith Cook, as you guys have been so helpful as I've been learning this role and how things fit together. I greatly appreciate your input and your support with that. So with that said, you have the financials there with you. We'll just go through this briefly, and then of course, if you have any questions, I probably will not have the history that Rosalie does, but I can definitely look into that and get back with you later. So as far as the summary report, that of course is a very high level report. It's actually fed by the budget to actual report that's going to follow. So I don't know that I can speak to too much of that right now. These are the direct numbers from that report. Moving to the second one, you'll have the current balances right there. A little more detail as far as the programs, dislocated adult and youth, and how those are broken out currently. These are all month ending of February also, by the way, 2/28. This also is actually fed by that budget to actual report. So there was a little bit more detail for you there. I do want to look at that last report, that is the budget to actuals. And this is, of course, like we said, everything from month end February 2/28. And again, not exactly sure. I told Tracy what everybody understands or doesn't understand about this report. So I'm just learning. So I'll show you what I learned. But the top portion there where it says the Workforce Development Board, that middle kind of portion, several lines, that is directly related to everything in the PDC office. That's Tracy, Lori, Tim, those direct costs. And then of course, broken out by program. And then underneath that, there is the Workforce Center, the Career Center, everything that's related to that. As far as, again, the program's broken out, dislocated adult, youth, and then the totals there. Each division then down there has a program operations line per each program. And then you'll see the direct cost line below that. That's our direct client costs as they are so far to date. I did discuss a little bit and learned a little bit from Rosalie about costs and budget, how they're tracking. Personally, like I don't have enough history to speak, 1,000,000% certainty, but it does seem like I agree with her, and she said it before. I think it's going to be a pretty tight year as far as things are going right now. And if anybody has any questions, I can certainly check into that for you, or shoot me an email if you need any further detail about anything.
Okay, so a couple of little general things. Our budget year goes from October to September. That's our budget year, correct?
Normally.
Okay, all right. July, okay, all right. So we are 2/3 of the way. And we do need to, actually, yes, we do have to always hold over a little because the government fiscal year is October. That's what's thinking. So sometimes that's why we have to not just make it through June 30th, but we have to make it over because some of those funds don't make it to us until, that's right. That's what it was.
Yes, if you're seeing 400 left, we're not going to spend that in that time. If we did, we'd be in trouble with it. Spend. So
Right.
we have to have that whole.
So, yep, okay.
We're also watching what's going on at the national level and in Congress right now. We had, what I saw an email on is that we might be getting a lot more, I don't know how much a lot is, but to me, 100,000 would be a heck of a lot more, but we will be getting some more funding for the We Owe It Title I program. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed because we don't want to stop doing the work that we're doing. We don't want to stop the workshops, stop the classes, stop the career navigation with each and every one of those individuals. We want to keep everything going as we are doing now, if not expanding.
Thank you. So are there any questions in regards to finances? All right, so we look forward to Tanya continuing to learn the ins and outs, and I don't think that Rosalie is too far away. I guess we can't go and scream and yell and ask her to help us. Okay. So thank you very much, Tanya. We appreciate that. And moving on to the One Stop Center operations report, Title I. Steve, you want to?
And let me know if you don't hear me. I talk really loud from New York, if I need it. All right. Try that way. So just a couple quick reports. Actually, it's good to piggyback off of the financial report, but if you can look at this one, should have been on the table, the little Virginia Career Works colors on it. The first one we're going to look at is, it just says, it's the adult dislocated worker. So I want to explain things a little bit to make sure everybody's on the same page, because some of this stuff is too confusing. I'll try to get too far into the weeds, but so when we look up, these abbreviations I had, so PY 2021, so that's program year 21. I know we're in calendar year 2022, and so help everybody understand our program year runs July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2022. So we're going to be talking about numbers now are literally just the third quarter. So October, November, December of PY 21, which is now technically this. I don't know what to do. I'll try this way. I want to hit a couple of highlights of the adult dislocated worker program. If you look, you'll see. So again, the PY 20, we're doing, and that had asked for this a while ago. So we're actually doing comparisons year to year. So last program year, the same quarter, this program, the same quarter. So we're looking at October, November, December of 2020 versus the same for 2021. And again, obviously we were deep into COVID during that time. And so you can see, which is exciting now, we're seeing an increase in active members, participants, increase in enrollments. So, 9 more over this last quarter, almost double the enrollments for the adult dislocated worker over this last quarter than the previous year. I will address the credentials and the employment, because it looks a little low when you think, all right, what are we doing there? But the reality is I did a little digging. And what's important to understand is we've made a significant shift over the last 2 years, really, of a lot of quick turnaround, short-term, potentially low-wage training. So people would go through CNA or these shorter-term trainings. We pushed a lot more towards longer-term trainings, 2-year trainings with a self-sufficient wage. So, for example, the credentials, we had 13 people get credentials last year in that quarter and only 2. But again, that is directly related to how many trainings complete during that time. So we had twice as many trainings complete during that time last year than we did this year. So that's the only reason. It wasn't like that people failed to get the credential. It's just literally that many people were still in training instead of exiting. Does that make sense? Same thing with the employment. So we literally had 20 people. We captured all this stuff at exit. So we had 20 people exit during this time period. 15 of them were employed. And then we actually only had 5 people exit during this time and 100% of them were employed. So I want you to understand that it's not like we're not employing more people or helping people get employed. It's just it's the numbers that come. And it's going to become even more clear in a second when we look at performance, because it's all about, who's in that measure. But again, just exciting to see the trends here. Youth numbers, and again, James and Sarah are going to take just a minute here to highlight some of these stuff. But again, enrollments now up 3 more than we were last year at this time for that quarter, which is great. And again, the credential and the employment stuff, it's the same kind of thing that you're seeing in the adult program. It's just a fewer number of people were exiting during those periods. But again, serving more, there's more active, 152 total for that quarter compared to last year. So then on the flip side of that is actually numbers from the center, because there's a whole other aspect of what we do besides just enrolling people and training and all that stuff. We also have a lot of partnership with the Virginia Employment Commission and other partners to manage things at the center. And so again, all you heard from us for months and months was, COVID, nobody's coming out, numbers are low. So we've seen a significant change from last year at this time to this year. So 431 visits to the center and now 642 during the same 3 months. So, over 200 increase in that. And the orientations, when we say orientations, so just to let everybody know, all the partners got together, created an orientation, a script, a video that Tim has produced that goes out, that anybody who's interested in receiving more what we call individualized services goes through this orientation. It's about 12 minutes online. They fill out a form, it comes to Chantel, one of my staff, and then she connects them to the right partner. And so when we see orientations that, again, the whole process was they come in on a Monday morning at 9 o'clock, you get 3 or 4 people in a room. It just wasn't very customer friendly. So we created it. Now it's online, it's digital, virtual, people can access it all the time. So that means, again, 108 last year had reached out and completed this. Now we had 161 over the same 3 months. So again, we're seeing significant increase. I actually got 2 since we've been here.
3 months,
You're right. This is just a 3-month period. Since I've been here, I've gotten 4 today. We got 2 more initial assessments since I started. So it's great. But that is, again, what happens now is, so how that works is most of them, many of them, probably 90% get sent to Title I staff. And so if they've got, 35, 40 on the caseload, they'll at any given time, 15 to 20 in the pipeline that they're working with and trying to get in. So a lot going on, but we're excited because, again, I'm tired of saying, well, nobody's showing up. And then they're showing up now, and we're excited. And so again, this the bottom one is just a breakdown, because I think people like to see this of the region. It shows you how many visits. And again, these aren't unique, unduplicated. These are visits. Every time somebody walks in the center, we record it. And so these are visits to the center, services provided, and you can see how that's broken down there.
So how many can one of your serve?
Yeah, we wanted the caseload, because they had to follow up to their list of job functions, which is a whole other animal, which actually I'll talk about here in a second. But we're looking from anywhere from 25 to 45. 45 would be pretty intense and extreme, but somewhere in that 35 range is where we want to be. And many of them are, some of them are still new and working on building that caseload. But again, what's exciting is literally this last quarter, we enrolled 11 people in the youth program. They'd only enrolled 13 up until that point prior, so we're seeing that momentum. And there's going to be another big shift at the end of the program here, which Sarah can address too. But so yeah, we're going to see those numbers continue to increase. We're excited about that. And again, it's just hard because it was, and I forgot to say, initial assessments is getting a little bit out of hand because it was so such a low because of COVID. Now it's literally, 50, 60 a month that we're having to process through.
It's almost overwhelming.
It is a little bit, and that's why it's fun, but it's great, and Tim, I love the death, he's a big part of why I have this issue, but it's a wonderful issue. Because it's getting out there, we're at events and we're at things, and we're not gonna stop doing that. But again, on the adult side anyway, I don't need to do a lot of advertising, we've got plenty of people to serve. The youth, out of school especially, which would be considered adults, is a little more of a challenge, but yeah, we have, we got a lot of people coming around. Again, will it stay that way? Who knows? But for right now, and Tracy mentioned earlier, where we had 2.6%, 2.7% unemployment. We're kind of back to that disenfranchised, completely given up on the workforce of trying to figure out how to get those people. Because that labor participation rate is really the key now more than the unemployment rate. How many people can get back into that? All right, any other questions, please let me know. I don't want to belabor this too much, but let's jump to the other one quickly. We do want to talk about performance. I know this is oftentimes everybody's eyes glaze over. I'll do my best because this is a little bit tricky. I've got a little traffic light going on here. I decided, yeah, it should have been over on the table. Yep, looks like this. Everybody got it? People online, I'm sorry, you guys do not have it. So the state sends these out, and again, they did the yellow and the red, so I decided I wanted to put the green in because green is good here, and yellow is caution, and red is terrible, or whatever. So, and we got a little traffic light going on. But I need to give context again, and I try to as best I could. So here's what gets really tricky. So this is performance for program year 2021, and this is the second quarter. But if you'll notice, if you look all the way to the right, that's the date range of when this is from. So this performance happens for us. Most every bit of performance, except for the measurable skill gains, happens after they exit the program. And so it takes a while. So we do, fourth quarter after exit, well, that's a year after somebody's exited the program. Then it takes the state a year to gather it. And so if you look, what we're actually talking about, most of these people exited our program between April of 2020 and June of 2020. So we're talking literally 2 years ago is what we're talking about. So when we talk about performance for this program here, it's literally 2 years ago. And I also want to remind people again, not to make excuses, because there's a lot of wonderful things here, is that, March of 2020 is when, China happened, right? So, all right. But I do want to highlight a few things. Actually, I'll hit the yellows and the reds, and then we'll really look at the greens, which are exciting. So if you look down at the dislocated worker, the red one that says 0 for credential attainment within 1 year, again, I want to give context because it really should say 0. And we're kind of going to push back. I wish we knew somebody at the state, like who used to chair the board or something, to talk about this, because it really should be not applicable. Because what happens, again, I don't want to bore everybody too much, but there's a numerator and a denominator for this. So everybody who exits during a certain period of time, we're then accountable. Did they get a credential? Did they get employment? What are their median wages? All that kind of stuff. So there's the denominator, people who were exited, then the numerator, who got a credential, who didn't, and that's how we get our percentage. So nobody actually exited during this quarter. So it's not 0, it's not applicable. There's nobody. You can't have, so it's 100% or it's 0% because nobody exited. So when you see that, it's nothing to stress about because nobody's in the measure. Now, if we go back up to the adult, I will just again for perspective. So that 0 is legitimate because we had nobody get that credential for the adult program. But if you look all the way to the right, 2 people exited during that cohort. So 2 people exited, neither one of them got it. It was COVID that just actually dropped out, COVID hit, and they just said, we're done, we're leaving the training. So again, not an excuse, just a way to kind of help people understand. So again, if that was 50 exiters, and we hit a 0, somebody should be pulling me aside and saying, well, holy cow. It's 2 people. And I guess I'm not trying to make light of it, but I just want you to understand where it comes from. Now, and I've explained this in past board meetings, and I want everybody to be able to understand this. The measurable skill gain is the only one that actually is counted in real time. So that you can see October 2021 through December, that is the quarter that we're reporting on. And those, again, those numbers look low, but they're really not, because again, how measurable skill gains works is this is something that people get all throughout the year in their participation. So if they're any kind of education program, any kind of training program, we capture these measurable skill goals. Like, if they're in school youth and they get a passing report card, right, that counts. Transcripts from somebody who's in a 2-year program. So a lot of this just happens about when you report on it. So if this was the end of the year report and these numbers look like this, then we'd have a real problem, but they won't look like this. Because they'll have the time to get the skill gains, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. So what I really want to look at though is all this green stuff. So basically what happens, if you look at the performance on the left side, that's the negotiated level. What we got, and it says actual is how we achieved it. And what they look for, right now, actually, they're only looking for 50%, but anything about 75 to 80% of the negotiated level is considered meeting the measure. So anytime you see stuff at that level or above, it's really tremendous. So we have many that are, 107%, and the youth category, 240% on median wages. It's fantastic. All the youth numbers look fantastic. 140%, in the adult side, employment fourth quarter, 111%. So, again, and it's the same is good on the positive side versus the negative. In that measure where, we got 135% of median earnings, that could have been one person. So it doesn't mean that, it's, 1,000 people are making all that money. So you need to keep it into context. Again, but I didn't bother to run the reports on positives because they're good, and I just want to be able to make sure I can answer for the negatives. So I know it's a lot of questions on any of the performance. Again, I think overall it's looking really good. If we get to the end of the year, those are the numbers, because we'll have a cumulative for the year. And if we're not hitting it, we need to talk about, why we're not. But again, people often ask, what's the greatest strategy for increasing performance? It's just provide quality services. I mean, the reality is we serve a really challenging population. We're not making excuses. It's just the way it is. We don't cherry pick. We don't look for people who can get us numbers. We look for people who need us the most, who have the most barriers. Literally 60% of the people that are on our caseloads all have criminal backgrounds and some of the hardest offenders to place, and we don't shy away from that. So the reality is I'm thrilled when we make performance. And I don't let it drive, and again, I speak for myself, but you guys are the ones that hire me. It's important when we look at it, but if that's the only thing that drives the people we serve, then it's probably, I don't know, we need to reevaluate why we do what we do. So again, we're changing lives in need, and now I'm going to give Sarah and James just a couple minutes each to kind of hit some highlights from their program and share a story or two. Questions before I hand it up? Yes, a question. Sure.
Just going through this page, you get enrolled to be credentialed. What does that credential class kind of time frame? Where are they getting?
Yeah. So many of them now are actually 2 years. We do all kinds of stuff, though. It could be a short-term fast forward program at CVCC. They get welding certificates. They go to VTI. They get a training, or it could be full-on LPN. Could be CDLs. We put a lot of people through that. IT programs through CVCC or MedCert. So it's a full rate. Anything that's high demand, we can help them get. But again, our top three are certainly the RN, LPN, CDL, and then I think the close third right now would be coming in with IT jobs. Now, what also is exciting, and James is going to talk about in a second, is we are, and I want to bore people with all this, but we have these requirements. A certain percentage has to be spent on training, and now we have other funding that kind of makes that a little bit of a challenge. So we actually have an opportunity as a program to do what's called on-the-job trainings. So we actually look at the employer as the trainer. We can pay that employer half of that person's salary for the number of hours it takes them to get up to the skill level that company's happy with. And so we're seeing a lot more of those happening, which is exciting. Because what's great about that is the credentials are great and it's long-term, but that doesn't guarantee you a job. So you come out of school, you sit to the state boards, or maybe you don't, and you've got that credential. This one, basically, they actually have the job. So we paid, maybe the same amount for the training, but you're employed right from the get-go. So that's just a cool tool we have in our toolbox. Any other questions?
For the two adults who exited the program after COVID, do we ever follow back up with that?
Yeah, it's a great question. We absolutely do. So it's another requirement of our program is a year. That's why, again, I think most of the performance measures run for a year. So once somebody exits or is close to our program, we follow them for a year. And that's a change we've made now. One person kind of used to do that and call everybody and try to reach out, but they had no existing relationship. It was a little bit of a challenge. Now, every single case manager, career navigator who works with someone, when they close them, they follow them for that year. So now they'll have, again, that 15 to 20 in the pipeline, that 25 to 45 active caseload, and then another 30 or 40 in follow-up that they're tracking at any given time. But yeah, and what's great is too, if we find out at that moment, again, it's for performance. So if we find out, hey, We call them, again, we call them in the beginning of that quarter. Day one, hey, you're not working, we do everything again to try to get them working because we want to make sure we hit these numbers, but it's also, do you need help? What do you need? And we can re-engage and potentially even re-enroll if it's appropriate. Yeah,
Thank you.
sure.
Sometimes the credential is the high school diploma too.
True, yeah. So for the youth program, it can count as that. But again, the tricky part of that is if they're not employed or in post-secondary education a year after they graduate high school, we don't get the credit, we don't get to count that high school diploma as a credential, but they will be. Yes, wonderful. All right, James is going to give us a little bit.
All right, everybody. Hopefully you can hear me. Apologies, I don't have as many numbers as Keith gave you, so. I do want to give you a quick percentage though. So 57% increase in active cases from the program start date in July to now. So the career navigators are doing a lot of good work right now. There's a question about caseload sizes. So they're typically in the last month or so been pushing between 35 and 40 each. So they're doing a lot of hard work. Denise Hutton and Lamont Hobson are their names. So kudos to them. And yeah, Keith mentioned for OJTs. So OJTs are a really good opportunity for our clients because it is a work-based training or work-based learning program, but it's a real job with a real employer. And as Keith mentioned, the reimbursement of 50% during training. So I just want to give a quick example of how one of these came together within the last quarter or so. You had Amy, not a real name. She was a displaced homemaker. So she had cared for her husband for the last 10 years or so while he was struggling with health issues and passed away. I'm loving this microphone. And so he passed away. She had the bills were stacked up. And 10 years, no work experience, no credentials, no high school diploma, and came to us. They're kind of throwing her arms up in the air, like, I don't know what to do. Got to figure something out. And through our career assessments and other tools, we helped her discover that she has real interest and aptitude in industrial work. And so we started her job search, and then actually through Tim and Keith also was involved with reaching out to employers and discussing OJT. A local employer was actually interested in setting up an OJT, and she applied for that, got it set up. It's a really good company that I think will provide stability, which is a good thing, and even more importantly, living wage. And she started the OJT yesterday. Today's Tuesday, so yes, yesterday. Hopefully everybody's rooting for Amy, and OJT is really exciting. So, you know, obviously if you know anybody or any businesses, I know, you know, some of you guys have businesses, so if you want to help out with that, that would be great. Pass it over to Sarah Grant.
Can I combine my youth committee update? Okay, so one of my most exciting highlights for the past quarter and then before, into the one before is I love our youth committee and I actually had this idea. We should have committee Olympics and pit all the committees against each other in a field day. That could be part of it. So one of the things I thought was the coolest was we had some of our committee members learn more about the youth program and then present on what they learned. So they connected with career navigators and then connected with me to learn about our very extensive 14 program elements and then shared with the rest of the committee what they learned. And it was nice for me to be able to sit back and listen and also to feel like we took a step in becoming engaged with each other. So we're about to launch into our subcommittees where we're going to work on research to identify a way we can address transportation needs, research to address how we can engage with older out-of-school youth, and then the same for the parents and participants that are currently in our program. So we're launching into this learning mode, and then we're going to take action together. One other thing I'm going to tell you about is that I can finally say, as schools are reopening to having people come in, that so we've been very tethered in such a good way to Campbell and Bedford counties, but in Amherst and Appomattox, it's taken a while to figure out like who's our point of contact and really make meaningful connections as we've gone through the pandemic. And we're in a place now where the engagement is solid. We know who we're connected with, we're getting referrals. So that means to me that throughout the region, we know that kids have access to our services, at least to the schools, and then we'll start to work on out of school youth as well. Yeah, so I think I'll end with that as I'm looking at the clock, and just would love to connect with anyone anytime and tell you more about what's going on with the youth program. I love to meet up, share information, and see how we can collaborate. So who does this go back to? Oh, and I had a whole stand-up set, but I saw that the time was getting lower, so I passed on it. But maybe next time.
Sarah has actually done an amazing job. She set up these subcommittees and, you know, she sent these doodle polls out, and she had like 4 subcommittees to her one big committee and all these doodle polls. And I finally just wrote it back and said, what are you, Superwoman? I mean, just set some meetings and hope that people come.
Great. Thank you very much, Keith. And so appreciate the information. One of the things we've always found is that, you know, youth are hard to reach, and then the hard to reach youth are even worse and harder. So that, you know, sometimes we'll see that lots of money spent, but not a lot of response or numbers, but that's just part of the circumstance. So I think set amount of the monies are targeted towards out of school youth, and they are the harder one to find and reach and get to. We've often argued the point that we put more money towards those who are still in school. Maybe the out of school kid would be enough, but that's for that person who sits on the board enrichment chair or something like that. Whatever you were, who you were referencing there. Yeah, there you go. All right. So anyway, so lots of things that we have to do, but I really am impressed with what everyone's doing, especially the youth. I was being voted by someone, I won't say who that was, John, about the fact that he sat on a committee with a couple of folks and I wasn't on that committee. That's all right too. So they're excited about it apparently there. I don't know. All right, moving on. I hope they are. All right. So going on, we have one action item, consideration to amend youth works experience. That was something that was brought before the executive committee, right now versus in the committees. We did talk about a couple things that were necessary in regards to our youth, in regards to getting things done for them. During our executive committee, Tracy had introduced a proposal to consider expansion of allowable hours per week for youth work experience, going from the 20 to 30 hours that is the existing policy to 40. The cumulative hours are 320 hours, so it wouldn't affect that at all. Just that you could get to that a little sooner by working 40 hours. So it seemed very much an easy answer, but the executive committee did vote on it and supported it. But the executive committee is only there to short term and take care of things until full board can do it. So that is before us. Again, it comes from the executive committee. There's no need for a second, but we would like to present that as a proposal for this committee to accept. Yes.
So basically, the executive committee moved, we used to say that these youth could only work 20 to 30 hours a week, like he said, and now they can work up to 40 hours a week as long as they stay within the 320 hours, which is what we're supposed to do. But what I forgot to tell the executive committee that they also needed to do was to expand from a 2 to 6 month stint where somebody could only work up to 6 months to sometimes if they're only working a couple hours a day, it might need to be longer to get to that 320 cap. So to just take that 6 month cap away right now, the policy says that they can work that work experience for 2 to 6 months And we just want to say, as long as it's within 320 hours, there's no cap. They can go longer than 6 months.
Okay, with that consideration, I'll entertain a motion for that full, okay, that would include the already motioned portion from the executive committee, but add that last portion. So do I have a motion? Okay, thank you. It's been properly moved. Do I have a second? Okay, thank you. Been properly moved second. Any additional discussion? Ready for the vote? All in favor? Aye. And all against nay. Hear nothing from those online, so assume that they are agreeing to it. So thank you very much. Appreciate it. Moving on now, because we are running close to that time. Let's see, committee reports.
Already had you, so DEI, Renee's on the line.
The Renee, are you ready?
I am. Good afternoon, everyone. I don't have a lot to report, but just want to give an update. We're still, of course, laying the foundation for our committee. We have recruited 11 members thus far, and I think we're going to cap it there for the time being. We have had a few actionable items thus far. I think I shared last time the translation of the CareerWorks orientation video, but we're also working with Tim to get that dubbed in Spanish. So thanks, Tim, for your assistance with that. We are planning to have some guest speakers in the next few meetings to help us identify some committee goals. And we also had a committee member complete an informal ADA walkthrough of the center, as well as we've been reviewing our website for easy access and accessibility as well. And then, of course, we are completing some outreach initiatives and ensuring equal access to all. So that's a brief overview of where we are. And of course, I hope to have more to share in the future.
Great. Thank you very much for that. Any questions? All right, thank you. All right, so
Andy, do you have anything? You guys didn't have a meeting yet, so that maybe next time we'll have one.
all right, great.
And for finance, Ron Lovelace couldn't be here today, but he is getting the monthly reports from Tanya, and he is still involved in
Pretty much every year this time, of course, we know that he is an accountant. So until what, Monday? Yeah, Monday, and they don't see the light of day. So, of course, your mind talks good. He's been around for a long time, and he knows what to look for. So the fact that that some changes have come with retirements and all that, he's been around, so he knows what to look for. All right, so with that, the exec committee work made that. There's one other item that I want to make you aware of about whistleblower rights. They're going to be added to the humankind contract, and basically it's an addendum to reflect the Department of Labor's whistleblower rights clause. And Lori, I don't know if you want to talk about that or tell us what that is.
It just protects individuals if they need to report against fraud or funds where they won't receive any type of. So we were caught that on, they flagged that on the monitoring. It was something that went across all throughout the state, and they noticed that disparity and requested that we begin to add those. And so that's what we did. We did and had that signed and sent back. So it was removed from our report. As we move forward, we'll continue.
That was an action that was taken also by the executive committee. I would like to make sure that we've done it in order. So since it did come from the executive committee and approved, and action has been taken, let's go ahead and take it here as well. So it is a motion coming from the executive committee. No need for a second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, ready for the vote. All in favor? Aye. Anyone against? Nay. Look into the online days there. So everyone's okay with it. All right. That's all of our agenda items. Any additional discussion, questions? Like I said, typically our meetings run about an hour. We had a lot of stuff today. Next one, as I said, I really would like for us to get to know one another, because there are folks here around the table that some of us don't know well. So, we'll hopefully be able to do that. Next meeting is going to be July the 12th. Plan. Yes.
I know we're over, and I've sent this to Tim, so hopefully he can get it out to the group. But Leadership Lynchburg is now accepting applications for both our flagship program and our season program. So I have flyers for you all. I know someone, so if you take one and pass it, I would appreciate it. And then if Tim maybe would email out, I sent a link so you guys can have all the details in case you have prospects. Because many of your organizations have been sending folks for years. So would love to have some of your great leaders engaged in community leadership.
Certainly, BWSC has been very engaged in this, so definitely something that we would highly.
And Lori Costa is a distinguished alumnus from this last class.
Highly recommended.
Right, is there anything else? So, Tracy and Lori are whispering. Okay, all right, that's.
Well, we actually were, I apologize, we forgot to send out the actual program application because we were trying to add this at BTI. And they're having classes starting.
It's like 2 weeks from now.
For some reason, I thought you said we didn't have to, because they were already.
That was CDCC.
That was you.
BTI is already an approved training provider. And they are just adding on this additional program.
We just need a motion and a second then to.
Well,
So you said the BTI, they are already a established, training provider.
Through partnership and a grant with Adult Career Education, they developed a CDL program as well.
Agree with that.
I know they're gonna have one cohort coming up here in the middle of April, and talked with David, who's the president of, they're hoping to do it long-term. They did submit the application, I think, on the 31st, but
Certainly, first of all, it actually, you probably need to take action on it because in order for them to receive funds, they have to be.
it has to be. Again, in the past, people aren't familiar, it used to just be all the schools were. And then that was the way it was under, and then they changed it where not only the school, but every single new program that they submitted had to then also be. So BTI had probably 6 or 7 different trainings that are already approved with this.
So this for those who are new, that's one of the things that we're empowered to do. We are empowered to accredit a organization to be a provider. Without that, they can't receive funds. But another aspect of this is that once we say yes, it's like doing we're the state, right?
True, correct. And we owe dollars.
Just one comment on that program, the CDCC and Adult Ed are all offering CDL. And so we are getting phone calls asking for letters of support and to get organizations to write letters of support. And so we're getting feedback from employers saying, is there a way we can coordinate this and write one letter of support? So I would just give that feedback to.
So the ACE one and the BTI are the same. So you'll see ACE advertising it, but it's the same one. CDCC is a separate, so there are 2 in the region. I don't know about the letters of support, that's our CDCC.
And we did hear from CVCC said that there's a waiting list. Certainly.
65 people.
Apparently there's a need for it.
Oh, there is.
That's right. Because I have the application. I can just give them information.
Okay, Tim, before that, Tim, you had.
I just wanted to clarify. So what the action that we need the board to take today is to add them to our eligible training provider list so that we can pay for our clients to take this class. We're not doing anything necessarily to accredit this program. We just need the ability, with your blessing, to pay for the clients that are enrolled in Title I to take this class. Is that right?
And yes, that's 100% correct. And the reality is this go around, they've actually got enough funding. They're only gonna be able to put 8 through this first cohort, and they've got enough funding to cover all that. David just told me that. This would be ongoing.
And we've already approved, back in the day, CVCC is an
Correct.
eligible provider, so we didn't have to do this for them. They're going forward with it.
So let me kind of
Yes,
a quick
please.
overview. Okay, as Keith said, this program is just starting. It's a 228-hour total curriculum hours. The length of the training is 38 weeks.
30 weeks.
38 hours, I'm sorry. Yeah, that'd be a really long.
Wow.
They do have some business support. He listed First Piedmont Foster. The total cost of the training is $4,500. And it is an in-person training. Those are the main items that we would have. And as everyone has stated, it is an in-demand occupation that has a livable wage at the end of it.
And the cost is comparable, it's the same at CDCC. And also, the only place we had prior was down in Roanoke. We had to send people down to CDS, pay for the hotel, pay for mileage, same cost. So to have two programs locally is.
So last thing I heard, they were looking for a trainer, I assume it's.
David said he's got everything he needs.
Right, so, you hear the information about it, and it is an action that certainly we don't have to take, but I think it'll be in our best interest for those who we're serving to do so. So any additional questions, comments? All right, I'll entertain a motion to, accept them as a. Thank you. Second? Second? Okay, second then. Any additional discussions? All right, no additional discussion, we're ready for the vote. All in favor, aye. All right, anyone against nay? Not having heard anything from those online, assume that they're okay with it, so motion approved, and I think that they go forward. Any of those. All right, everybody, thank you very much, appreciate it. We look forward to our next meeting in July. Take care.
Thank you, Mom. Happy spring.
Thank you.
Happy Easter.
Yeah.